So the wrongful conviction of Christopher Abernathy, uh, by Billy Clements. Oh. Case overview. Where when? Park Forest, Illinois, 1984. The victim was 15-year-old Christina Hickey. She was walking home from a choir performance and went missing. This is on October 3rd. Her body was found 2 days later. She had been raped and stabbed. Christopher was arrested 1 year later. Important to note, he was 17 at the time of the crime. Um, so 1 year later, he's 18, but he was sentenced in 1987 for life in prison. But because he was 17, he didn't get the death penalty. Uh, in 2015, he was exonerated after spending 29 years in prison. And I thought this is interesting. His mother visited him over 1,000 times, going weekly. Um, Investigation. Uh, they really found nothing. I'll get rid of that off that. Uh, Confession. They got his confession after 40 hours of questioning. He tried to take it back immediately. Um, they had one witness who claimed that Christopher told him that he didn't, which was Alan Dennis. He was coerced by police to a lie. I'll touch more on that in a second. And there was no forensic evidence. So it was purely off of his confession and testimony from his friend that got him convicted in 1987. And basically, what they did is they made it so he had no control of his surrounding, socially isolated him, and they had him with the certainty of guilt. Like they are like, we know you did it, just say it. And I mean, 40 hours of this, you can see why someone might crack. And then kind of what I touched on there is 40 hours. That's a very long time. He wanted to see his mom. He had a learning disability. He dropped out of high school because of this. And basically, the cops were like, "You can go home if you confess. Just confess, and you can go home." And there were no safeguards. He didn't have a counsel. He didn't. It wasn't recorded. There was nothing there to really help him. And they also minimized the culpability of it. They did this by like, if you look at the confession that he signed, it's worded like, "Oh, you saw her walking and you wanted to have sex with her, so you followed her. She said no, and then you accidentally stabbed her," like minimizing it. And then the police coerced his friend Alan Dennis. So his friend was in legal trouble, and they basically were like, "Let's make a deal." So, and this is according to Alan. They offered him like a very lenient thing, which he admitted to committing 30 burglaries, and he was only charged for two, serving a 2 year sentence. And the cops also paid for his suit. They bought him clothes to wear to the court, so he'd look nice, about $300 worth. The defense never knew any of this, and Dennis believed that he would get a worse punishment if he didn't lie for the cops, for the detectives, which I could see that. 1984 makes sense. So case analysis, uh, interrogation length. Less than 10% lasting more than 2 hours. That's according to the book. So if you're going for 40 hours, you're doing something wrong. And yeah, they should never go that long. Kind of like we touched on in class, at the very least, there should be breaks. You know, maybe you go 4 hours and then you get a mandatory break and then you can come back the next day or something. But 40 hours is crazy, especially for someone in the vulnerable population. Record the interrogations. Seems like a no-brainer. Not only would you make sure that you don't miss anything, and you would also just have, I feel like for solving crimes, you want as much information as possible, not less. So that would just be something that I feel like should be encouraged and that record all the interrogations. I don't see why we're just limiting it to like severe ones, but use piece, not read. Once again, seems very obvious to me. If they would have just tried to hear him out and get a side of the story and not accuse him of it for 40 hours, I don't think he would have confessed. Whereas with the peace method, it's much more tell me your side of the story and they go from there. And once again, I think it is so strange that we live in a country where you're innocent until proven guilty, until it like really matters. And the people that are like the front line of the like criminal system are telling you that you're guilty right away. So that just seems like the opposite of what should be happening. Give counsel to juveniles and those impaired mentally. I put that in there, but it's my opinion. Everyone should just get counsel. Yeah, why I think the earnest is on the cops to prove that the person did it, not for the person to prove they're innocent. So yeah, I think cops should have a hard go of it. They get paid well for this. Yeah, I don't see why it's the earnest is put on people to prove they're innocent in a sense. Like that seems strange and backwards to me. Routinely test and maintain evidence again seems so simple. They literally had the man's DNA and they had the DNA on the clothes. And as technology got better, they could have just done a test. Could have saved years of that man's life. Instead, it's left to some journalism students at Northwestern University who came across this and found it super odd how everything turned out, and they brought it to the attention of the Illinois Innocent Project. So super strange that cops aren't checking themselves on these things like routinely. Like there's just not a policy in place where maybe they just look back at all those like severe cases and yeah, I get police, whatever, but man hours and stuff. But come on, you're talking about people's lives here. You can, I'm sure they could figure something out. Instructions to the jury. Uh, yeah, just tell the jury that false confessions happen. Like the book talks about, like we talked about in class, they're held to like a gold standard. If you get a confession, most people believe that's like the real deal. So yeah, maybe just tell the jury, same thing with the expert testimony on confessions, just have them be educated about it. Like I don't know. I think it's so simple just to present a good case with all the details. I feel like that's vital, and those two are things that are key and would have been key in this case if they had been done. Um, so the outcome. So the conviction was erased in 2015. 29 years he spent wrongfully in prison. So about 3 decades of his adult life gone. He got $13.7 million settlement from Park Forest. He also got 300,000 from Cook County and 220,000 from the state of Illinois. Um, it highlights the importance of innocent programs slash projects. And Illinois requires homicide interrogations to be recorded. Kind of like I touched on earlier. Why not record them all? You know, just hold everybody accountable easier, make it so there's no foul play. And that way you don't miss anything. You can always just look back at the recording of the interrogation if you need to for like police work. So it's not just to hold the police more accountable, it also benefit them in my eyes. And my further loss in faith of the police force, touch more on that in a second. And the real perp walked free. Yeah, they don't know who did it. Yeah, even as of February of this year, they were talking about how they were looking at it in a new light with like some DNA or some. But once again, there wasn't enough DNA to prove who did it, just enough to exonerate Christopher. So and then cops. So threw this in there because crazy. 2 to 3 months to be an officer in Phoenix. So it's one college semester to be a cop, and they need more training in my eyes. And I know that after those 2 to 3 months, they just don't get out there and their own squad card. And I know they shadow for a long time and everything else, but the people they shadow were trained by the people that did stuff like this. So yeah, that's all I'll say about that. They need more training. And here are my sources.